We are live, ladies, and it is fantastic to see you all over the world, wherever in the world that you are. By goodness, what a moment we're in, hey? What a moment we're in. We're all having incredibly different experiences right now, but we're united by this common triggering event, yes? Never have we had, I think, as a species, such a global outlook. Just in this last week, we've submitted something to the Equalities Office here in the UK Parliament, a survey of our community, and we've realised that some women are completely on their knees, yet despite that are able to find some sense of compassion for themselves and the courage to be able to reach out where they can, while others are struggling alone, you know. Some women right now in this crazy moment in time are doing pretty well and finding a way to contribute meaningfully to others, while others are doing pretty well and feeling incredibly guilty about it, you know. It's such an extraordinary time. So what is it that has some of us be all right getting through this crazy moment and others not? I truly believe it's not one single thing that makes the difference, to be really clear, but one thing is true. If we're going to emerge from this moment and have it really matter, we need to do that together. So I want you just for a moment to imagine, no matter where you are right now, no matter how you're feeling today, I want you to imagine that you had the resources to handle this and any challenging moment that life throws at you. And not some kind of fairy tale, unshakable inner self-belief, you know. I'm here to tell you that in times of destabilization like this, that having some sense of strength in yourself is never enough. It's not enough. And quite frankly, it's a pretty 1980s way of thinking about it, if you ask me. But imagine that if you had radical compassion for yourself and for others, that you could feel great most of the time. None of us has got it nailed all of the time, but most of the time. You knew exactly what to do when you were feeling less than great, and you had an extraordinary community to help you through those moments. And that from that place, you could make that meaningful contribution to the world to really make an impact. That's what we're up for with this series, ladies. If we haven't met before, I'm Dr. Joanna Martin. I'm the founder of One of Many, which is, I believe, the UK's fastest growing network of women leaders. And we're now growing and rapidly expanding internationally. We've got coaches around the world in New Zealand, in Australia, in China, in Kuwait, in Switzerland, France, Netherlands, Germany, the UK, Ireland, the USA, so many more. And in fact, wherever you are, you might be joining us from all around the world. I can see some in the chat channel. In fact, let me know where you are in the chat role. Let me know where you are, because it's really great to feel where you are. What countries have we got you calling in from over here, ladies? Let's see, where are you? We've got, I can see Herefordshire in the UK. I can see, what else can I hear? Oh, you can't hear? I think that hopefully you can you guys hear all right? Sounds okay there. If someone's got the sound, I'm trusting it's not at my end. We've got people in sunny Brighton. We've got people in Wokingham in the UK. Whereabouts in the world are you, ladies? We've got you in Spain. We've got you in Kent. Whoa, now it's going fast. Tunbridge Wells, Northern Ireland, Switzerland, Manchester, New Zealand. Hey, Viv, over in New Zealand. United States, Milton Keynes, South Africa, Poland. Holy moly, what an international contingent. Oh, this is so exciting, ladies. I'm so excited because you're welcome to Emerging Together, this new series. This is amazing to see where you all are. This is great. This is really the beginning of us being able to branch out in a truly global way here at One of Many. And it's such a privilege and an honor to be here with you today. I know that this series is going to help you to immediately start handling the day-to-day juggle and to equip you with the tools to navigate in these uncertain times that we're in, to make the most of all of these new possibilities that are on the horizon. So if you're melting down at the moment, burning out, overwhelmed, and I've got to say, about 5 minutes ago, as my little baby girl got hauled out of my office screaming, there was a moment where I thought that would be me, and you don't know where to start to get back into balance. Well, you're in the right place, because I'm going to help you with that. I've been able to do that. I will help you. Or if you're coping okay, but you know this is not sustainable in the long term, how you're doing things at the moment. Some of us are up to all hours of the day and night, burning the midnight oil, multitasking. Or even if it's just that you feel the possibility of something new, a new phase on the horizon, stay with me, because you're going to discover how grassroots women leaders like you and me can be more effective, fruitful, and make the impact that we're feeling called to make without burning out. And it's critical that you make that paradigm shift right now, so that we can call in the global paradigm shift that's needed. So with that, let's get started, hey? There is no doubt that times are challenging right now. But at the same time, so many of us can feel the possibility of a new future on the horizon. On the one hand, this feeling of being so far out of our depth is there for us frequently right now. And when we feel like that, hey, we don't make great choices. Yet, as women who care, you and I, we're alike. We want this insane moment in history to count for something. We want the deaths, the stress, the grounded planes, the jobs lost, all of it to be for something. Perhaps like me, you can see that in the future it's possible we might become more compassionate human beings. We might become more conscious spenders, more conscious travelers. But we know it's not going to happen out of blind optimism. It's going to take something. The world is already being reshaped. Politics and laws are being reshaped. Communities are being reshaped. Businesses are being reshaped. Family units in this moment are being reshaped. Our personal belief systems are being reshaped. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but my waistline is being reshaped. So those of us who care, you and I, we need to move forward consciously. And if we get stuck in this feeling of overwhelm or meltdown or burnout, we are not going to be able to help ourselves, let alone make an impact in the world for good. So if you care about the world, and I know you do, and you're feeling there's a lot on your plate, and I know there is, then welcome to Emerging Together. How to live and lead in the new global paradigm. In this training, I will be sharing powerful tools to support you out of overwhelm. I'll share great strategies for helping you make good decisions, tools for managing those highly emotional moments, and systems to help you navigate during these uncertain times. Tens of thousands of women before you have learned these tools and are applying them right now in this moment to calm the daily chaos and have an impact that feels powerful for them. If you are one of many women wanting to reset and build that more certain future for you, your family, and the world, you're in the right place. Whether you're planning to lead from the front, from within, whether it's your family, your community, or your business, it's the grassroots leadership of women that are going to shape the world of tomorrow. We need only find a little bit of time and a little bit of courage. So with that, let's get started. So, ladies, welcome to Emerging Together. I'm so excited we're going to be sharing this time together. And if you haven't already found it, you'll notice that under the video right here is a resources section. And in there, there's a PDF for some notes for today. So you could download that and take some notes, or grab a notebook because you're going to be wanting to take some notes there. I can see Hannah Becco there, who I just saw in our video there, saying, "Yes, I miss everybody." Yeah, I miss it too, right? Wouldn't it be great to be able to be in a room like that together right now? I'm missing one of many hugs. It certainly is a challenge right now. So let's start with some intentions, ladies. With any training series, we like to start with intentions. And we've put together this training series to help you to find the calm you need to juggle the here and the now while stepping up to the contribution that you're feeling called to make, to deal with the emotions of the present, to find freedom no matter what's going on, to help you to identify a vision for the future that calls you forward and helps you to make good choices. So I want to know, what's your intention for this series? You'll see there on your notes page a place to write your intentions. You can jot them down in your notebook, or even better, send them in the chat channel. Let me hear some of your intentions. Where are you at in your life right now, and what would you like to get as a result of taking part in this 3-part training that we've put together for you? One thing I know to be sure is that the more that you can find that sort of sense of peace and calm, inner power, and a sense of real self, the more that you can impact those people and causes about which you truly deeply care. So what are your intentions from for the series. What are you up for? Rita says, life hasn't changed much for me. I've got the same situation as before. The only thing that's missing is my ability to travel and meet family. Got it, Rita. Yeah, got it. Gemma says, I'm looking to create financial freedom. Got it. Fantastic. Those, I can see some lovely shares coming through there. Thank you very much. Important thing to say, ladies, if you're here joining me live, and I can see that we have over 500 of you online live, must be more than 500 because I think the chat box is full. So if you've arrived and you can't get on the chat box, that's why, because we're at the full limits of our chat box at the moment. Then the good news is stick around right till the end because I've got a secret session, which is not going to be in the recording of the event, where we're going to deep dive discovery into a piece from the day. Now I'm starting to see a lot of these intentions coming through to learn some new ideas to share with my clients and to help me, an idea of how to emerge into the coronavirus free world, or not free world, but the post-coronavirus world for the greater good, to keep calm, take care of myself. I'm looking for inner balance. Amanda says, I'd like to find some energy so that I can start a coaching business. Great. Melanie says, I don't want to be stood at the crossroads of life anymore. I want to be courageous and make a change. Yes. Arama says, I'm looking for the confidence to move forward into new things. This is exciting, ladies. That's what I'm up for too. So let's get into it. But before we dig in, I want to warn you about something. This is really critically important, okay? And not paying attention is going to virtually guarantee you that as we emerge from this thing, that you will continue in overwhelm or stagnation or procrastination and possibly end up in burnout. Don't do this. And that is this little badge. Some of us wear this busyness like a badge of honor. If you put yourself last because you think that that's all that you deserve, that everybody else's needs are more important than your own, you're going to have a real problem on your hands. We have to be conscious that we're not becoming martyrs right now. Now more than ever. Yes, we have a great opportunity to impact the global paradigm, a great opportunity, but it's not an excuse for further martyrdom. Don't make this mistake, ladies. We need to step into a new paradigm, yes, but one that is centered in radical compassion for ourselves first. You must take care of your own needs so that you can have even half a chance of supporting others. Are you with me, ladies? It's really important. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that changing the world is not a simple thing anyway, right? Especially if you try and do it alone. I'm reminded when I was thinking about this particular point I wanted to make of Anne Jeffrey, who is one of our program graduates, an extraordinary woman. She was an emergency nurse who started out her nursing career in the emergency room. And she said, I was trying to save the world all by myself. And I bet a few of you can relate to that, right? Who are people who like to save the world single-handedly? Give us a little me in the chat box if you can relate to that. She would put everybody else first, like first her patients, then her colleagues, then her family, and she was right at the bottom, right? Which is, of course, a recipe for burnout. And most of us have things like that trying to seduce us into that way of being right now. You know, we've all got no time. We are juggling more than we've ever had to juggle, especially those at home with kids. And those who are in isolation often by themselves sometimes find they have the time, but not the energy to do anything with it. We're hearing huge amounts of procrastination and lack of motivation and so on around the traps at the moment. Some people are kind of like, I can feel that there's something for me, but I can't make those first choices, or I don't know what to do or what could even make a difference, and I'm only one person. And then we end up in apathy and Netflix mode, right? That mode where we try and escape some of these overwhelming feelings. We try and numb it out, either with Netflix or booze or too much Zoom time with our friends, just trying to avoid the fact that we just don't quite know where we are. So that's why I'm going to demystify the process of really putting your own needs first so that you can set strong boundaries like Anne did and actually impact the world sustainably. Anne was able to build up her coaching business, and then when coronavirus hit, she heard the call from the NHS to really re-enter and give more of her time to the NHS. And when she did that, she did it powerfully. From the energy of Queen, she did it on her terms, her putting herself first, her colleagues in her team at the hospital second, and then the patients. And in doing that, everybody got looked after, right? Everybody got looked after. She was able to ask for exactly what she needed at home. So her husband and her daughter were able to support her when she got home from work powerfully. And she's really being powerfully able to sustain through this time. So great job, Anne. And thank you for being so inspiring at the moment. In this training, ladies, I'm going to share a really unique perspective on what's happening right now. And it's not the truth, right? Nothing that we share here at One of Many is the truth with a capital T. I don't believe there is such a thing as the truth. There's just one of many opinions. And it is just one opinion of what's happening in the world right now, which could inform why you're having the feelings that you're feeling right now and where to focus your energy. So maybe you're just looking to get through this moment in time without melting down or burning out, or maybe you're feeling called to be of greater service. Either way, you're in the right place. Because after today's training, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to navigate the complexity of these moments that we're feeling right now. And part one today is this paradigm shift moment that we find ourselves in. Now, these trainings that we've developed and the tools here at One of Many are developed because myself and my content collaborators, Annie Stoker and Susie Heath, two extraordinary human beings who I hope you get to know over the weeks ahead, all of us have seen so many women that wanted to make a real difference in the world, but thought that the only way to do that was to completely exhaust themselves in the process. One example of that is Felicity Wingrove. She's one of many very inspiring women. When she found our community, she was very focused on building her business. She's got a great organization. It's called Zen Communications. It's a media and communications agency. Great organization. She was the kind of woman who worked all of the hours, was often working 18 hours a day. At one stage in her career, she had a bed in her office. This is a woman who doesn't just work out. She cage fights, right? And frankly, when she met us, she said she was far too busy to be spending money on any kind of personal coaching or personal development. Her business was much more important for her. But every about 3 months, she was crashing and burning with some kind of cold or flu that would just wipe her out for days on end. And in fact, it was her husband who recommended her to our work, which I think is quite telling. I remember when she walked in, she said when she first walked in, she thought, if this is some kind of, group of women where we're going to sit around and knit each other's leg hairs together, count me out, right? And this was all before she realized that there was actually a new source of power that she could use to be just as effective, just as fruitful, but without being on the brink of burnout. Those little collapses that she was having every few months are telltale signs of burnout. And let me know in the group here whether that you can relate to that. If any of you have examples of that in your own lives where you felt like that. But through the work, she realized she was more than her role at work. She found compassion for herself and others, and was able to really transform. She epitomizes for me this superwoman archetype. Pre our work, superwoman wanting to do everything for everyone at the highest possible level to be the best no matter what, and it really exhausts us. But what we also saw as we looked around was it wasn't just superwoman that this paradigm was impacting. It was women who would rebel against that superwoman archetype. We saw hundreds of women who were also choosing to play small and not step up and make an impact that they felt called to make because they thought the only way of doing it was through superwoman. Does that make sense? They didn't want to do it if it meant they had to be like people like Felicity, One of Many, yeah? They had to be like their mothers. They often look at their mothers who worked way too hard. They're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sacrifice everything. And it caused this kind of dichotomous choice that we saw in people. And I saw this so clearly because, it was my story too. I started my working life as a medical doctor, and although I was pretty good at it, frankly, I was unfulfilled doing it. I remember my term on oncology back in the day. I was in my intern year. I was overworking, we're working all of the hours. And really, I was on the brink of burnout before the age of 23. In fact, my registrar of my oncology unit resigned in the second week of me being on that rotation because of burnout, because of the immense pressures that junior doctors are under. My heart goes out to doctors right now. And at that point, I took a really courageous step to follow the little whispers in my heart, which took me off to drama school. And I ended up at a great drama school called the Actors Centre in Australia, which, as those of you who know me know, that it's where Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman went. Not when I was there at the same time, unfortunately. I missed out on the Hugh time. But it was a great school. But I invested really heavily in myself, in retraining as an actor. And it was while I was at drama school that I discovered personal development and coaching. And this entire industry of, leadership and impact, which I didn't even know was a thing, But I'd found the contribution I wanted to make in the world. So I continued to invest in myself to get better and learn the vocabulary and learn ways of managing my own energy to achieve more, right? That in the early days, that's all I wanted. I wanted to achieve. I started a business. It grew successfully. And before long, I was traveling all over the world. I'd basically found my mission, right? And I was traveling all over the world, teaching to audiences of up to 3,000 at a time, which was great. But then again, just before my 30th birthday, I had nearly burned out once more, because even though I had now found something that was fulfilling and rewarding for me at a soul level, I was still going at 1,000,000 miles an hour with the same operating system that I'd had in the past. Does that make sense, ladies? Give me a little yes if you can relate to that. Even if it's, we can either burn ourselves in the pursuit of something we don't like, or we can burn ourselves out in the pursuit of something that we do like. But it's a real challenge, and it sounds like a lot of you can really relate to what I'm talking about there, and having some of the health issues related to it as well. Yeah. So it was at that time that I just stopped. I did nothing for what I thought was going to be 4 months. It turned into 9 months. And I invested in myself once more, dove into self-discovery. But this time, rather from coming from that very competitive, masculine, achievement-driven personal development, I dove into learning about the feminine. And I was one of these women that had a lot of judgment around femininity. I just need to say that. But I discovered in this journey that there was a completely new way of operating. From that place, I launched a new business with my partner, Greg, which grew to 7 figures. We were doing over $1 million a year, really high 6-figure profits. We were in 2 countries in 12 months. We made so many programs. We did so much. But I did not burn out, and it did not feel like too much. And I knew where my limits were. We paused to have some babies. These are my little people. James here is now nearly 7, and Rosie has just had her 3rd birthday, but I love that picture of her. And it was while I was breastfeeding James that one of many, as you're interacting with us right now, was born, because it was just a realization that actually, if we truly want to shift the needle on the way we operate globally, if we want to shift this paradigm, it's going to take us, not just women leaders of countries and women leaders of organizations, but us, grassroots women leaders, women with tiny little businesses, women who are part of large organizations, mothers, grandmothers, doctors, lawyers, us. It's us and our leadership that's going to make that difference, And from that place, being of service to one of many, which feels like this entity beyond me that I've just got to listen into and try and keep up with, it's been absolutely extraordinary. And it's not just stopping with me. I mean, these are some of our graduates here. Some of their stories are so inspiring. This is Wendy McChrystal, who found us on the brink of burnout. She's was a rail industry executive. And during her work started a little side project called the Mental Wealth Cafe, which has since grown into a really profitable business that she now runs. Raina Poppet Shah here is a GP who, through her work with us, found her creative expression. You should look for her on YouTube. She's got some beautiful spoken word poetry that she does. This is Sarah Ryan, who is a lawyer, wanted to go out on her own. Did so, and in her first year with us, doubled her income, then found even more courage to leave behind lawyering altogether. This here is Margaret Collins, who is an expert in imposter syndrome, an academic. And interestingly, she was on a coaching call with with her coach, Kath Daly, having a rant because the funding for her sister's basic skills learning had been cut. So she's got a sister, Lynn, who has an adult learning disability, because she'd already finished the basic writing and reading training, she couldn't keep going with it. But her sister loved it, and she was having a rant to Kath, and Kath said to her, "So what are you going to do about it?" And Margaret's like, "Well, I don't know. Okay. And she launched a charity. It started as Cardiff Adult Basic Skills and has now grown to Community Adult Basic Skills. It's now registered as a charity. And in fact, she won our award that year. Lynn, this is Lynn, her sister here, and Margaret winning the award. It was just an extraordinary moment, and that's that inspiration. So our community is full of women like this, women who have done more than they ever thought they could, but from a new paradigm. And that's what I want for you ladies, because you wouldn't be watching this if you weren't a woman who wants to deeply impact the world in some way, whether that be small or large, whether it be your personal little family world or the world at large. And that's why I want to make things really easy for you today. If you haven't already printed out the PDF, if you've joined us a little bit late, grab it in the resources section just below the video here. And so you can make loads and loads of notes as we go through there. There's my little slide to make sure that I reminded you to to do that. Yes, Raina Popechar is the poet. Go check her out. An awesome woman. She's gone back into the NHS to support the work there, but in such a powerful and boundaried way. So let's jump in and get into some of these things and write notes on your pages or in a notebook. But we have ourselves here, ladies, at this potential collective paradigm shift moment as a global collective. I'm a big fan of etymology, and whenever I want to understand something more powerfully, I'll look it up, right? So the word paradigm, the definition, is the worldview underlying the theories and methodologies. The worldview underlying the theories and methodologies. It comes etymologically from the Greek, para, meaning beside, and tikninai, my ancient Greek pronunciation leaves a lot to be desired. You'd think one of these days I'd work out how to say that, is to show. So in other words, beside, to show. We can only understand a paradigm when we see a different paradigm beside it. You've heard the old adage, a fish doesn't know it's in water until you take it out of it. We don't know about the paradigm we're swimming in until we're out of it, which is why it is so damn hard to create a paradigm shift, because you have to first of all, get awareness of the paradigm that you're in to be able to see it. So let's do that. Let's do that at a big scale, first of all. Let's have a look at what's going on across the world right now in this global epidemic moment. It's a collective paradigm shift moment. So if we were to say that there is our current, or I hope very soon, old paradigm, as identified by the little red circle here, and then there's a potential new paradigm. If you think about the old paradigm, the way things have been up until this moment, what are some of the issues you have? What words would you use to describe that kind of paradigm? What sorts of traits do you see about the way things have been out there that you don't like? I'd love to hear some of those in the chat channel. What sorts of things inform that for you? Let's hear some of the words that you've got on that old paradigm kind of words in the chat channel. What as you look out at the world, what kind of springs to mind? Everyone's gone quiet? Come on. I'll give you some of the things that I trigger. Here we go. Thank you. Competitive. Yes, great. It might just be that I've got a bit of a delay here and it takes a while for you guys to do that. Rigid, being stuck. Great. Masculine. Thank you. Blame culture, inauthentic, disconnected. Oh, okay, there we go. Most money wins. Competition, selfishness, old-fashioned. Yeah, right. We're all thinking along the same kind of lines here, right? I look out and I see a lot of inequity. I see a lot of unsustainability. I look at the environment. I think this is not sustainable. Broken social contracts, broken politics, a sense of this power over. Yeah, right? All of that kind of stuff. Well done, ladies. Thank you. Now, here's the thing. If we want to make this moment count for something, there's a possibility, and you can feel it on the horizon, can't you, that things could shift. Things could shift. How would you like it to be instead? What would you like the new paradigm to look at, ladies? We've had the planes grounded, right? There was no organization in the world that was going to stop flying to save fossil fuels, but coronavirus took it out, yeah? What is there for you that is possible in a new paradigm? For me, I think about, rather than equity, I think about compassionate action where we're aware of needs and supporting, more consensus driven. conscious consumption, shifting into regeneration. We've seen this moment of regeneration in so many different ecosystems around the world, right? Trust, power to rather than power over, right? This is the new paradigm possibilities that are available to us. In order to be able to navigate into that new paradigm, both as individuals and as a collective, we need a strong vision, a really strong vision. And for those of you who are here live on the line, I'm going to do a little workshop on this vision piece at the end today. So stick around at the end to do that little live vision vision workshop if you have time to stick around with us. But what we need to be able to do is choose a vision that provides you with the greatest feeling of control. And that becomes your true north, Now, that vision might be a personal vision. It might be a personal vision where you can see you're in more work-life balance, right? You're being gentler to yourself. You're gardening more. You've bought the house of your dreams or whatever, right? It might be a personal vision. It might be a vision for you and your family, your immediate family or your wider family. It might be a vision that includes you and your community, whether that be your neighbours. And I'm looking out around my village that I can see out my window here. You know, we've come together as a beautiful little village through this time. But also we have our online communities. You know, the one of many is a powerful online community as well. Maybe it's a national vision that you have, right? A vision for your country. Or maybe it's a global vision that you see. And I know for me at a personal level, the vision that gives me the greatest sense of a future to live into, that gives me a sense of control to face the moments, is a global vision. For some people, that's too big. For some people, the greatest sense of control comes from a family vision. And there's no right or wrong here. It's whatever gives you the greatest sense of being able to steer in the right direction. Another great example of this is Jo Turner and her colleagues. I remember speaking to Jo at one of our events, actually. She was at a one-woman conference with us. She came up to me at the service table and said, you know, Jo, I'm a physio, I'm in private practice, but I deeply care about our NHS. And I want to do something to support the extremely huge number of people inside that organisation that are burning out. A little bit later, few months later, she was in our program. I went off to see Adam Kay, who wrote that book, This Is Going to Hurt. And I put a post into the group and I said, you know what? We have so many women in the NHS in this community. You ladies should collaborate on something. You all want to do something for the NHS. Collaborate, do something. And out of that, one of many NHS women was born. It's a Facebook group. And if you are one of many NHS women and you want to be a part of transforming that culture, which is the vision of that entire group of women to transform the culture of the NHS, go join their Facebook group. Highly, highly recommended. And out of that came a little steering committee of, I'm thinking of Jo and Morag and a bunch of other ladies. Sorry, your names have gone out of my head because I have not had enough sleep in the last couple of days. The kids always know the times to keep you awake, right? The times when you really need your brain to work. But they have created, then the coronavirus hit. So it wasn't a long-term culture change that needed to happen. They realized that what needed was emergency kind of support, mental health support. And they have just launched, someone in the chat channel from that group, give the web address of the website that has just been launched. I am so excited about it. It's called First You, and it's a kind of resource site for the NHS staff to be able to get connected with each other. So a lot of those women had a kind of community/national vision to be able to transform their healthcare sector. And that's what they're doing with their time. It's not they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs the rest of the time. These are busy women, but they're doing it powerfully from soft power. So as you're looking at your vision, we find ourselves in this thing called the paradigm shift paradox, right? We're in this paradigm shift paradox because we can see this vision of the future, and I can see so many of you shared some beautiful words about that. You know, tenderness, green, forgiveness, authenticity, inclusive, community, healing. These are beautiful words that you've shared to describe this new paradigm. We can envision that new version of the future. And here we are, all of us, one of many women in this old paradigm, envisioning this new paradigm. But here's the problem. Because we're still in the old paradigm, and even worse, we're in lockdown in the old paradigm right now, we're feeling increased dissonance So to understand what dissonance is, it's the kind of the opposite of resonance. Resonance is where something vibrates and another thing vibrates at the same level because they're similar, right? They go, oh yeah, I get you, I understand, I resonate with you. You know, that's how music is made. It's a beautiful thing. The opposite of that is dissonance, where things are kind of at totally different levels, yeah? And then when you've got this dissonance between things, what happens for us at a very human level is our emotions, and especially those women like you and I who care, those women like you and I who care really deeply, we feel a lot of it. You know, we see this vision of the future and then we look around ourselves and we go, oh shit, and it hurts more. We feel the pain more. We have the grief more, all of that kind of stuff. Does that make sense, ladies? So we get a lot of emotion right now. Who can relate to that? Relate to the fact that that you're experiencing a lot more emotions right now. Let me know if that's the case for you. And we see that powerfully, absolutely powerfully. So how do we do this paradox of living in the old but from the new? How do we do that? How do we do this living in the old paradigm but from the new to be able to call in the new paradox? How do we live the change now that we want to see in the world? It's that Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see in the world. How do we do that? How do we do that? Yeah, right. Good, good. So I can see that lots of you going, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So the way to do that is to then take a look, right? Let's shift out of global paradigm for a minute and come in and look at your personal paradigm. This is your own set of beliefs, because the paradigm influences your beliefs about your self-worth, your beliefs about your identity, success. The paradigm influences your feelings, right? The paradigm you live in and the paradigm you have about yourself and how they interrelate. And it's largely unconscious. And most of us find ourselves in a situation where we are largely unconsciously in a paradigm that we never chose. It's made up of many layers, right? It's made up of the layers of our cultural values. That's the big picture global paradigm that I'm talking about right now. The workplace values, family values, and then also our own personal values. So let me dig into each of these layers a little bit so it makes sense for you. So first of all, it's great to have a look at some research. Some of you might have heard me talk about this before. There's some research from a gentleman by the name of Hofstadter. And Hofstadter has done a lot of research. This particular one he looked at was the relative masculinity or femininity of different cultures. So masculine cultures, he identified, were those ones that celebrated or valued assertiveness, competition, achievement, material success. A lot of those words that we use to describe that old paradigm stuff. Whereas feminine cultures, he described as those that valued compassion, connection, community, humility, consensus-based decision-making, and so forth. And he rated them. And what he saw, like 100 out of 100 was right at the masculine end of the spectrum, and at the other 0 out of 100 was feminine end of the spectrum, right? Japan was the most masculine country in the world with a score of 95 out of 100. UK, 9th most masculine country in the world, score of 66. Germany, I saw we had some from Germany, same at 66. The USA, someone there from US, 62. Australia, where I come from, 61. So you can look up this research and find where your country is. I can see there, and Lone saying, I'm grateful to be Danish and growing up there, which is very empowering, collaborative, very feminine. Our Scandinavian neighbours have got this, you guys have got this sorted out, right? That's where we see the longest rates of natural term breastfeeding, which is breastfeeding kids to, 2, 3, which is, as a mammal, what is natural. It's where we see the greatest amount of home births, where we see really smart penal systems, as far as I'm concerned, intelligent stuff happening there. So first of all, we are born into countries that tell us what is the right way to be. So on your notes, I want you to make some notes about this, and in the chat channel, share with me, what does your culture tell you is the right way to be? How does your country inform your personal paradigm? What does it tell you is right? And then we go into the workplace, yeah? Then we go get jobs. For me, my first workplace was the hospital. Well, that's not quite true. At the age of 14, I had a job in a bakery. But my first proper job was as a doctor. and it was a hospital which was incredibly hierarchical, very much power over, very much push through, burn the midnight oil. It was the consultant's way or the highway. There was no space for love, how you doing, compassion, any of that kind of stuff. So what does the workplace tell you is right? Yeah? What does the workplace tell you is right? That is another layer that factors into your cultural paradigm and what feels like the right way of being in the world. And then we are in families. And our families have a little microcosms of culture that tell us what is right and wrong. You know, my dad was one of 3 boys. My mum was the only girl in a family of 3 other boys. So she was a tomboy. And dad only knew male kind of values. And so as kids, you know, achievement, like everything was about achievement. Not that we were ever pushed to achieve, but it was just the language of our home. You know, winning, achieving, coming first, being the best grades. Not that, like it was not, we were never, I don't want to say like I was never like bullied to have to be smart or anything, but it was just so celebrated because that was the best thing. My family told me that achievement and competition and winning was the best, just the way that it was, right? And then we have little childhood experiences, little moments in time. I'm reminded of Raina, actually, who we spoke about earlier, the GP. She tells a great story about how as a little girl, she went to brownies and she became the massive brownie badge collector, like so achievement-driven to get a badge for this and a badge for that, good girl. And she turned into a lifetime of brownie badge collecting, which shapes your own personal paradigm, right? So when we look at these layers, cultural, workplace, family, and these little personal experiences we have as children, what that does is it has, for the overwhelming majority of women, it has 3 major outcomes, ladies. And those 3 major outcomes are, we either, like me, I was an example of this, and Felicity I spoke about earlier, and Wendy McChrystal, we turn into superwoman. I can do all of it and I can do it better and I will never fail and I will only ever take on things I know I can win at because that's how it is, and often we crash and burn. Or we check out, take the route of anti-superwoman. If that's what achievement looks like, if that's what living as part of this world looks like, I'm not going to do that, so screw that, we check out. Or sometimes we end up in this push-pull conflicted place, and some of you might be resonating with that, where it's like, yeah, oh God, no, but I can't do it like that. I've got to look after myself. But yeah, oh my God, I can't. Yeah. Oh. Who can relate to that kind of conflicted thing? So no momentum ever seems to get made. If the only choice about how to be fruitful, if the only choice about how to be productive, to use old paradigm terminology, is push, superwoman, and that's the only frame of reference we have for being effective in the world, why on earth would we want to do that? Some people would, and some people are nervous to let go of her. But I believe, and we here at One and Many believe, we need a new kind of power to be the woman the world needs us to be. We need a new kind of power to be the woman we want to be, to survive this, right? Yes, a lot of you saying, yes, I'm so conflicted. So the masculine paradigm, and by the way, I want this to really land. This is not about, dissing on men at all. This is not a gender thing. This is about energy, masculine energy, feminine energy, right? The available power that we have, the paradigms that we live in. If we're living in a masculine paradigm, the only choices we really have are superwoman, anti-superwoman, or this weird-ass conflicted place. Which is why if we can shift into soft power, we don't even use the word femininity much around these parts because so many of us have got a lot of judgment around it. But that's what I'm talking about here, is that sense of inner strength. Because femininity doesn't mean weak. If you think about, and I'll talk about this in our next session when I talk about the women's power types, but if you think about the archetype of the queen, she is feminine, but she is not weak. You think about the archetype of mother, she is feminine, but she is not weak. Of warrioress, she is feminine, but she's not weak. So we need to recognize that there is a way of being where we can embrace all of those things of compassion, serenity, grace, decisiveness, strength, and not be weak, but still be in our own power, right? We need to make that shift to a new kind of power. So what difference would it make for you to step into this new kind of power, ladies? I want to hear. Can you imagine for a second that you were no longer rating yourself on the other kind of scales of what was right and wrong, that you tuned into your natural advantages as a woman, those things that actually are there for you, which you may have suppressed or ignored or tried to turn away from, and you were able to activate all of those great parts of your personality, the strong and feisty parts, and the deeply, juicy part, all of those bees. How would that be? Catherine says, love it. Guest says, self-belief. Lucy says, I often think of soft power as water. It's such a powerful element and so underestimated. It's so true. So true. Yeah. Another lady here saying, I was Superwoman. I checked out and became a mum of twins. I've been waiting for the new paradigm to catch up, always looking to jump on this wave. Yes. Well, here's the thing, though. The paradigm's not going to catch up. We have to call it in, ladies. We have to be those beacons of soft power in the here and the now, especially at this moment in time. And when we first started this movement 5 years ago and we looked out there in the world of leaders, global leaders, we didn't see any great female leaders visible. Right now, we've got many of them starting to come to the fore. Look at the leaders of a lot of great countries. Please put the names of amazing soft power female leaders that you've seen in the world. But my favorite, my pin-up girl, the woman I follow on social media, my girl crush, Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister. And I know that not every Kiwi agrees with everything that she do, of course. It's politics. Why would we? However, her ability to embody all of the power types, her ability to respond powerfully in her own sense of certainty and leadership is extraordinary, with no sense of this dominion over or any of that kind of stuff. It's extraordinary, right? She's great. But having said that, we don't all want to be Jacinda. We don't all want to lead countries. So we need to find what's our personal way of making this contribution in the world. And that is activating 3 centers of power. The 3 centers of power are within yourself, from others. Most old-fashioned masculine personal development will tell you it's only about your belief in yourself. But no, it's the power that you can source from others as well, and from what I call source, which is the divine, which is Allah, which is Jesus, which is the universe, which is quantum physics, whatever you call it. We'll talk about that in another training. If you don't access this soft power, you'll stay stuck, working harder, in Superwoman, or trying to avoid that, repeating those same mistakes, melting down, checking out, doing loads and loads more personal development, getting more and more exhausted, and feeling like a failure because it doesn't stick. I remember I felt like that in the early days of my personal development journey. I would do things and I'd get a result, but then it wouldn't stick, and I'd think I was the problem. But now I understand it was just the wrong tools for me and the kind of energy and power I have access to. So the next training that I'm doing for you on Saturday, ladies, on Saturday at noon, I'm going to show you how to avoid the disempowering archetypes of victim, bitch, martyr, superwoman, and anti-superwoman, and instead harness what we call here at One of Many, the 5 women's power types. So if you're really struggling right now, it's going to give you a new operating system and a clear plan for exactly how to replenish yourself and get back on your feet. If you're okay right now and you're ready to step into that new possibility, but you want to step up without having to go into Superwoman, and you want to be a living, breathing example of new paradigm in action for your children, for the women in your community, for the men in your community, then this is exactly what you need. I'm also going to share a load more inspiring stories with you and give you the opportunity to complete your own power type profile. So we have a fabulous power type profiling tool that allows you to learn more about your own state, understand the challenges that you're experiencing currently through the lens of which of these are you best at: warrioress, lover, mother, queen, and sorceress. So we're going to talk about those in the next session. I'm also going to share loads of great, more inspiring stories with you to give you lots of understanding of how this works, so that you can really craft your own journey forward into this new paradigm. To be able to come from soft power, avoid burnout and meltdown. It's really easy if you know how, and I'm going to show you how to do that in our next training. So to wrap up, I'd love for you to share in the chat today what has been the biggest takeaway for you from today's session. What's your biggest takeaway from today's session? And also, what are you going to do as a result of this. Yeah, some of these lovely shares about Jacinda, I love that. Yeah, she gave a public briefing to kids. She did a lot of briefing to kids and is doing briefings to kids. And she designated the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy as key workers, which was absolutely fabulous. Amazing, right? So what are your takeaways, ladies? Let us know in the chat channel. For those of you who are here with me live, stick around because I'm going to do a little workshop here in a moment on that visioning piece. But I want to remind you tomorrow also that at noon tomorrow, London time, so wherever you are in the world, it's noon London time, I'm going to be in our Facebook group, the B1 Global Community, answering Q&A, live Q&A. You can ask, so if you've had questions that you've put in the chat box today, the team are going to pull them all out for me and give them to me. We're going to put a post right now, if it's not already there, in the B1 community saying, whatever it says, ask your questions for Joe in the Q&A. On the comments of that post, put your questions in. And I have a request. Be as specific and detailed in your questions as you possibly can so that I can then give you the greatest and most useful answer to those. And I am going to be around for however long it takes tomorrow to answer as many questions as I possibly can, because it's a way that we can support you. If you found the session really useful today, please do share the training series. The website is oneofmany.co.uk/emerging. So that's the original link that you registered on. Please share it with your friends on Facebook, on Twitter, send a friend to the URL. And as I said, stick around because we'll do that session. So let me see what some of you are saying. Pamela says, I'm grateful to myself for taking my time out of today to watch. First thing I'm going to do is tell my husband about this to help him understand better where my head is right now. That's beautiful. I love it. I love that. Melanie says, I love the concept of choosing a vision that provides feeling control, your true north. Wonderful. Great to hear. Kerry says, I'm being more conscious of when I'm being pulled into the masculine paradigm. Great. This is awesome. Oh, Jackie says, my soul is hungry. Yes. Well, Jackie, make sure that you come to the next training. Come to the Q&A tomorrow. And with that said, have a little pause here. A video is going to play again, but don't go anywhere. I'm going to get my flip chart. We're going to do a little bit of a workshop here for about 10 minutes. So stick with me. Otherwise, we'll see you for Q&A tomorrow or the next training Saturday at noon.
My life had really stalled, right? I was actually pretty sick, pretty burnt out. At that point, I started Lead the Change. Right? The retreats give you such an extraordinary depth of tools and self-understanding that I was able to see very, very clearly what the problem was. And at that point, I changed the direction of the rest of my life.
My business was thriving, but I was being a cow to my husband and I was being a bit of a cow to my kids. And what's so ironic is I was working so hard for the family. But it wasn't until I came on the program that I got that insight.
The Lead the Change program helped me let go of fear, gave me back my energy, gave me back my connection to my body. It's no exaggeration for me to say that Lead the Change has led me to do what I am doing today. On behalf of the hundreds of women, the thousands of women, the tens of thousands of women, the hundreds of thousands of women that I am going to be helping reconnect their life, Lead the Change was at the start of it.
I go into corporates every single week and I see the women doing what I'm trying to do and juggle. There is a different way of being, to stop doing, and to start being.
No one's going to come in and save us. We need to do this ourselves. Every single one of us. We can get some leader on high that's going to change things at the high level. If we're not doing it down here, that doesn't matter what they do.
You know the quote from the Dalai Lama that gets bandied about a lot these days? It says, the world will be saved by the Western woman. The Dalai Lama's talking about me. He's talking about my sister. He's talking about my neighbour, my mum, my gran. The world's not going to be saved just by women political leaders or women corporate leaders. The world is going to be transformed by us, by you.